Because of your husband's affair, how many times have you been triggered today? What emotions were triggered? Anger, sadness, embarrassment, shame, feeling not enough. So, your husband had his affair. It's triggering you. How long are you stuck in it in a day? How many hours a day do you feel like you spend feeling a certain way because of a trigger? So today, this might be one of the most important videos you watch when it comes to infidelity. We're going to talk about how to manage those triggers. Because if we can get the triggers under control so that you're not feeling so triggered, you're not feeling deep sadness and anger throughout the day, just hit you with waves because maybe you drove past a place you know they've been, you hear a name or watch a movie that reminds you of their situation. If we can get these triggers under control, you'll be massively on a journey to healing from the betrayal. So I'm Beth Miller. I am a marriage coach, hypnosis certified hypnotist, and I have a program called Save Your Marriage After Infidelity. I help women save their marriage. And a big part of this is getting yourself in a good place where these triggers are not so present, because when they're here, they're ruling your life. You are not in control of your healing. The triggers are in control of your happiness. So today, what I want to do is I want to teach you how to handle these triggers and how to start to overcome them. All right, if you're watching from YouTube, feel free to join my Facebook group, Betrayed Wives and How to Save Your Marriage. So the link will be in the YouTube comments below. Or if you're in the Facebook group here, welcome. It's so good to see you again. So this idea actually came from someone who emailed me, I think yesterday or on Saturday. And I'm like, you know what, I'm doing it. She said, there's tons of videos out there about how to rebuild trust, but she's like, I need a video that's going to help me address and deal with the triggers. She's like, what do I do when my husband says something or does something that triggers me? It's keeping me from moving forward. He is doing a lot of things right in her situation. Her husband is doing a lot of things right, but there's so many days that the triggers just blindside her. They just hit her out of nowhere. And whether that's watching a show together, seeing someone who kind of looks like the affair partner, or just a random moment where all of a sudden just a thought pops in. And we'll talk about trigger trains. It's amazing how you could just be driving down the road, you see something that then reminds you of this, or you see a vehicle that reminds you of this, which then takes you to a moment when maybe they were in the vehicle together. So it's wild how these triggers can just get out of control and just all of a sudden bombard you. So how to deal with these, right? How to deal with these so that you don't have to stay on the trigger train. So the first thing first, I'm just going to get into it. If you know me, I'm not into candy coating things and going on long-winded conversations. I just want to get you something tangible that you can implement right away. So the first thing is I just want to commend you on having awareness of the triggers and a willingness to want to overcome them. Because when you have awareness of the trigger, and a lot of time triggers come as we notice in undesirable emotions, but we can have triggers that activate desirable emotions. So for example, Christmas, a lot of those that are Christian, you have great memories of the Christmas tree and presents on Christmas morning, activating very joyful, very exciting emotions in your body. But when it comes to infidelity, most of the time it's a really undesirable emotion that gets triggered and activated within us. And so what happens is we see something, we hear something, or we don't see something, such as our husband saying something that's going to reassure us that we are safe, that we can trust, or we don't hear him say something or see something that we feel like should be there. So hearing something, not hearing something, seeing something, not seeing something usually produces that trigger within us. And then how a trigger even happens, it's an emotion. We usually catch the emotion. How the emotion comes into place is from a thought, and how the thought comes into place is from a belief, and how the belief gets in place is from a memory. And so you might have multiple memories of him going off to work and then saying he's just going to be a bit late. So we have these memories of him being late. So then we have this belief of if he's working late, he might be seeing her. And so we have the memory of him being late, getting home from work, which creates the belief of if he's late, he is probably seeing her, which then creates the emotion of fear or anger because he's not home on time, which then creates the emotion of just like anger, right? So we had that thought of he's late, he's doing this, he's doing X, Y, Z, and it's just this like barrage of thoughts, which then creates the emotion of anger and fear. So we have the memory, which then leads us into the belief, which then leads us into the thoughts, the millions of thoughts, which then produce the emotion that we notice. And so what we want to do is once we understand that method, we just need to go backwards. So we know the emotion we're feeling, which is anger. We know the thoughts, the bazillions of thoughts. We then have to figure out the belief. That's the hard one. If we can tackle the belief and create a new belief. So for example, if something happens, like you see a picture of her, and this is not the most common one, but if you see a picture of something that they've been texting back and forth, you see a picture of her and all of a sudden you feel really sad. We got the sad, we got the thought of maybe she's prettier than me, or maybe he desires her more than me. We have all these thoughts. It comes from the belief of I'm not good enough for my husband. That's the belief. It's very short. I am, usually I am not, I can, I can't, I do, I don't, I will, I won't. So I am not good enough. And so if that's the belief, if we could change it to I am good enough, although he doesn't see it, I am good enough, which then creates very supportive thoughts, which then creates more desirable emotions. So we have to tweak that belief. And the thing when it comes to tweaking the belief is we have to understand what's the purpose of it in my body. Like, why is this belief even there? And a lot of times these beliefs, like I'm not enough, I'm not heard, I'm not seen, I am shameful, I shouldn't have done that, I'm not in control, I deserve pain, I deserve bad things, or bad things happen to me, or I'm not beautiful, I'm not important, I'm not significant. Sometimes those beliefs form in earlier years, so we can tackle that another time. But these beliefs usually have an origin. It could be just from your marriage, it could be earlier years in your marriage, motherhood, teenage years, past dating experiences when we've been cheated on, like all men cheat, or even into childhood that, you know what, I'm not safe to express how I feel because people might laugh at me. So these beliefs often have shown up in other times of our life. So I'm not good enough. So if that's the belief, number one is you had an awareness that you're triggered. You have a willingness to want to change that triggered reaction. And now we've got a handle on the belief. The belief, again, is the hardest thing to get to. And so if we can get to the belief, now we just, okay, what's the role of this belief? And the belief is, for example, often is protection. If the belief is I can't trust him, which then creates all these thoughts of he's doing this again, he is going to hurt me again, I shouldn't trust him because he's going to break my heart. If the belief is I can't trust him, we then often will do that as protection. And maybe legitimately we can't trust him. But if the belief is I can't trust him, it could be protecting ourselves, protecting our heart, because if we choose to open our heart, we're then very vulnerable. And then if something happens, then we're just going to fall further. So sometimes it's easier to keep ourselves down low, like lower the expectations. It's kind of like if you ever wrote a test and you're like, I failed that test. It already sets you up to not do well. The bar is low. Same with him and trusting. I can't trust him. Versus a very supportive thought of, I choose to trust him today. Because if the belief is, I choose to trust him today, he's coming home late from work, that's the action we see. Like I said, triggers come from things we see, don't see, things we hear, things we don't hear. So he's coming home late, activates the, I choose to trust him today. That's safe, right? That's safe for our body. I choose to trust today. Doesn't mean I'm going to trust next week or the next week because that's too big. I choose to trust today, which create thoughts of, you know what, maybe he actually had an appointment, or thoughts of, I'm going to text him and see how he's doing. That then creates a more peaceful, calm emotion. So the trigger's not as blown up. So, okay, back to we have the awareness, the willingness, what's the purpose? In that case, it's protection. Sometimes the purpose can be, this needs to be tweaked a little bit. Like you notice how it's like, I choose to trust today. We sometimes just have to tweak it. Or I choose to trust when he's late. I don't trust him on his phone yet, but I choose to trust him when he's late. So sometimes we have to tweak the belief. And so if we can start to catch the belief, then we can definitely change our outcome. So the example of, I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's see. So your husband, I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head here. Put one in the comments if you think of one, or if you have any questions, put it out there. But your husband seems to be doing a lot of things right. Like he's going to therapy, he's saying the right things, but maybe you're feeling like he's faking it, or he's just doing this to keep your family together, or he wants to hold the facade of where I'm a professional in the community and I need to uphold my image. And part of he's like, he's staying just because he doesn't want the world to really know who he is. And so when you see him doing these like smoozy talks with neighbors, or when he's like pretending to be all happy with you and cuddly with you in public, or just like saying the right things, part of he's like, the belief is he's just faking it. And so if the belief is he's faking it, it produces all these thoughts of, I can't trust him, he's faking it, why is he doing this? Maybe he's staying just for the kids, or he's staying just to keep his image, which creates the emotions of anger, lots of anger. So if we can tweak that belief of he's just doing this for himself, what we can then do is, like I said, change it. But one way that I use it is through hypnosis. So hypnosis, I use a process called like transformational thought processing. We used to call it hypno journeys. It's these deep guided meditations. And what happens is we get you really relaxed and we go back to memories. We can go back to memories or recent, far away, go back to a time when you couldn't trust. And close your eyes and go back to a time where you couldn't trust. And we start to see these flashes come up. We get you very relaxed. It's very safe. You're fully aware. You could open your eyes up at any time. And when you're in that state, it's a very, very easy state to start to change these beliefs. Because what happens is releasing past times where you couldn't trust or past times you didn't feel significant or enough. When we start to clean that stuff up, it's like our past pain isn't informing today. It's like, today I choose to trust, or today I am enough. I can see in the past how I wasn't enough, but it's like you have the book of your life and we close the chapter on the past, being like, okay, in the past I couldn't trust. And so what's really powerful about this is that allows you to take control of your present. And so if you're not feeling, when you're feeling triggered, you can then take control of it in regards to, okay, what is the belief? Is that belief serving me? What's the purpose of that belief? And then I can get rid of it by going back to these memories, and almost like you could cut the cord. So if it's the time where you couldn't trust him because he's getting home late, we can be like, I cut that. That's not him today. I can see today how he's going to therapy. I can see how he's attempting to say the right things. I'm choosing to trust that he's not doing that just to keep the family together. I choose to trust his intentions. And it's a slow progress over time of kind of unwiring the brain to rewire the brain. And slowly, like our process is about 3 months. At 3 months, it's phenomenal how your brain just gets rewired. And we support our clients every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because we don't want to, unlike traditional therapy, see you in a week, because then you're left with your same thought process. You come see us once a week. In traditional therapy, you'd see someone once a week, and then you're left for a whole week with your thoughts again. And then you come back and you talk about all the reasons you're triggered and things that happened. Then you're left alone for a week. We want to be with our clients every single day, because if we know the thoughts every day that are happening, we can then track it back to the beliefs, and we can change those beliefs right away. So if you're changing the belief, I'm not significant to him, I don't matter, he's keeping us together just for his image, or he's keeping the family together just for his image, we can stay on top of that all week long and make sure it's sticking. And over time, as we make those stick, you're going to have more supportive thoughts, more desirable emotions of calm, joy, peace, feeling significant, I'm enough, feeling like you can trust yourself and trust the future. So this is like one of the biggest things you can do. So whether you're working with us and doing the hypnosis process, it's having that awareness of what is the belief and how can I shift that belief, tweak that belief. Instead of I can't trust, what can you trust? And then starting to work on those little beliefs and expanding it so that you can get to a place of overall trusting. What do you do in a situation though when your husband really is constantly breaking your boundaries? Constantly, like he is messaging her, or he's being really secretive. Like, how do you manage those triggers? Because they're legit. He's actually not, like, what you're seeing, what you're believing is actually true. So that's when we have to come to a place of, okay, I see how he's not loving me the way I need to be loved. I see he's not meeting my boundaries, but right now I choose to stay. I choose to stay. I choose to stay and work on myself, because I know when I get rid of the beliefs of I'm not enough, I'm not significant, I'm not important, I'm not in control, I'm not heard, I'm not seen. When I can release those beliefs about myself and realize that's him that isn't seeing me, hearing me, treating me like I'm enough, or I'm safe with or without him. I'm safe financially, I'm safe emotionally. Yes, there's grief and all that, but when I can get to a place where I am really solid, like I'm on a solid foundation, I will then have the clarity whether it's time to stay or go. So a lot of times we can stay in these really maybe dysfunctional or like not ideal relationships while we wait for our husband to change. But we'll get to a place where we're in such a good place that we realize, you know what, enough's enough and it's time to exit. So triggers are gifts. I know they don't feel like gifts. They're really painful. It's really ugly, the gift itself. But when we tackle that trigger, only good things will come from that in terms of ourselves. Like, we will be okay. You will be okay. Things are going to be okay. I promise you that when you do this work, it's a really crappy journey that you have to even be here and on this journey, but you will be okay. Life will transform for you. I see it in my clients day in and day out. The first little while it's rough, but in that 3 months of working together, it's phenomenal the changes that can happen. And not just with your marriage, but your relationship with your friends, your mom, like your career. All of a sudden you start getting a raise or you get a new job opportunity that you weren't looking for. It's like when we clear out this heaviness and this lightness comes, this higher vibe, like law of vibration, your vibration is higher, law of attraction, it's incredible what comes in. So we work with neuroscience, which is that kind of subconscious rewriting neural pathways, creating new neural pathways. We work with psychology, and we also work with energetics. addicts. So it's a beautiful process. Feel free to send me a DM. Let me know if you have any questions about specific triggers, or if you want to set up a quick call with myself or one of my teammates. We can give you some free advice. We're all about helping you out. This whole group is full of tons of resources. We can get those to you, or if you want to jump on a quick call, we can give you a little roadmap on how to navigate what you're going through. But I know what you're going through is rough, and if you're in the group, I'm glad you have each other and us, and Shay's in here. I know she's actually in the live right now, but if you want to reach out to Shay, she's also past client. She's been through it, and she's here. She's your number one cheerleader in there. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Put any questions in this chat, and if you want to jump on a call, just put the word call in the bottom, and myself or Shay will get you the link so that we can have a conversation. All right, bye everyone.